And now it's time for Guerilla Roundup. They'll let you know what happened overnight when things transpire you whilst you sleep. Right there in the loop you keep.
So, welcome to Guerilla Roundup for the second day of the Brisbane Test. I'm very pleased today to be joined again by Ed and Mace, who's spent the night in the Guerilla Towers and maybe exhausted, but possibly exhilarated, maybe depressed. I don't know, but it's been an interesting day. Welcome, Ed.
I have, yes. Good to be back on the roundup.
Could you give us a very brief summary of the score before we dissect it all and what happened today?
Yeah, so England resumed. They were on, I believe, 325 for nine, with just Joffa Archer and Joe Root in, and they lost that last wicket very quickly and finished on 334. Australia then progressed through the day and closed on 378 for six, with Carey and Nisa unbeaten at the end.
Okay, so Australia are now ahead by 44 runs with 4 wickets in hand.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. We had hijinks the first day towards the end as Archer and Root were putting on a lot of runs. How did that end up this morning?
It came to an end very quickly. There was one aggressive shot from Archer through the covers of Stark for four, and the rest of it was just dealt in singles. It was the same kind of thing we'd been seeing where the likes of Doggett were bowling short and they were just rolling their wrists over it, taking the single and then rotating the strike quite well, but that didn't last very long. Archer ended up hooking one too far in the air, and Labuschagne took an unbelievable catch, which we'll get onto later. Fielding differences between the two sides, but when that catch stuck to Labuschagne, we thought, oh, they're up for this today.
Yes.
It was a great way to close out the innings for them, and they kind of escaped. It was perfect timing wise.
Oh, we'll
Meant that
talk
they
about
had,
the over rates
which we
later.
will
Yeah,
talk about. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's just crazy. So then we had Australia opening the batting with Head and Weatherald. How did that go?
It was a case where England put a little bit of pressure early on. They started with a couple of maidens. Archer was getting a good line, uh, but things slipped very quickly, especially after Head was dropped by Smith. Of a very simple chance, I thought he was moving. He was moving away to his right, and then had to go back to his left, but got two gloves on it, and at that point, should be clinging on. And after that, the Head and Weatherall just stepped their foot on the gas, and they were scoring incredibly quickly, kind of unlike Australian openers in recent years. The two of
Mm.
them were flying, and they kind of recognised the situation that batting in the day was going to be far easier, and they were scoring at 5, 6, and over. Uh, they took down Bryden Cast in particular, who was very expensive today, um, and yeah, it was a very strong start. And until that first wicket fell, it was pretty bleak for England.
Yeah. Although I must say that Travis Head was not the Travis Head we saw in the second innings in Perth. He was
No,
much more shaky in
yeah,
his batting.
I would agree, but yeah, Weatherall was the one to really kind of show a progression from the previous test. He looked very composed for his cricket shots, and was doing a great job of not letting bowlers get settled. Head, yeah, you're right. He hit four boundaries, and he was trying to hack at quite a few, and that's how he got out in the end. He
Yeah.
completely he clocked one up in the air, and it was a good backpedaling catch from Atkinson. Um, but yes, he wasn't the same. It wasn't. It was a different kind of aggression. Where in the second innings of the previous test, he recognised the situation and knew he had to attack, but he wasn't. Uh, it didn't feel incredibly kind of unnecessary. Whereas this felt a little bit too rash,
Yes.
and he paid eventually, having been dropped on three or four. I think he ended up making 33.
Yeah. I have to say that my impression was after Archer's opening spell, which was very good. I think he bowled what 5 overs for 9 runs, something like that.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Um, Apart from that, I thought the England bowling became increasingly loose. Even Archer was a bit wayward at the start,
Yeah,
but the lack of consistency in terms of both line and length really gave the Australian players a chance to play themselves in a way that
yeah,
didn't happen in the first innings in Perth.
yeah.
And that loss of discipline, I think, was very significant from the England bowling point
Yeah,
of view.
I'd agree. There's one more element to that, which is fielding plans. Uh, I don't know if you saw the wagon wheel at the end of the day's play, but it was something like 240 plus runs were scored behind square, most of them down to third man. And most of these weren't like edges; they were deliberate shots. And Stokes never opted to have that third man in until maybe the last couple of hours, and it
Yeah,
kept on costing runs. Meant that pressure could never really build in sustained periods. Uh, and
it,
and the bowlers
yeah,
and the bowlers really struggled to know where to bowl, which didn't help
yeah.
at all.
There was a period too where there seemed to be a lot of shots hooked for four behind square normally, and the fielder always seemed to be in the wrong place down there.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, there was only ever one. It took a long time for Stokes to put the second guy there to help out, but it meant that there was always a gap somewhere. And yeah, especially Weatherall was taking that on. He saw where the guy was and just thought, well, there's at least 20 yards of space to the other opposite side, and took it on.
Yeah. So Marnus Labuschagne came in to join Weatherald. It took a while to get into his stride, didn't he?
Yeah, a little bit, but I was very impressed with him. I thought, I know he's been doing very well in the Sheffield Shield, and that's kind of how he got back in with his List A stuff as well. Um, but he kind of showed that tempo, which I thought he needed to show in the good batting conditions. Yeah, he started a bit slow, but he progressed very quickly. He ended up scoring at a very good rate, some strike rate 83 in the end, which is very solid for what they needed.
Indeed. Uh, so Jake Weatherald was eventually out for 72. This was only in Australia, 146 and just the 25th over.
Yeah.
Um, uh, he was bowled LBW to a beauty
Mm.
from Archer. It didn't
Yes.
even bother to review that. But
Yeah.
my impression with Jake Weatherald, well, I speak here as an Australian.
Hmm.
I just breathed a huge sigh of relief that we may have actually found another opener.
Yeah.
Um, the only person who might not be all that happy about that is Usman Khawaja,
Uh,
because I think
yeah.
Weatherall certainly cemented his spot. Head was okay as an opener, uh, and the truth is that everybody in the Australian team made some runs today, which was a bit of a contrast to England. But yeah, I like the look of Weatherall. He's got aggression without being unnecessarily risky, I think is a fair way to put it.
Yeah. I would agree. He was taking stuff on when it was there to be taken on, but he happy to kind of dig in. And I think against Dickinson in particular, who was still quite tight. He had a loose last session, but in the period in the afternoon where he was still bowling on a good line, he was happy to just kind of sit there and leave it be, and then take on the worst bowling from the likes of Carson and Stokes at the start of that innings.
Yep. So then we had Stephen Smith come to the wicket. So England supporters probably had their bile at its strongest. The combination of Smith and Labuschagne does not
Yeah.
bring a lot of
Yes.
happiness to English
Not at all.
supporters,
Yeah.
understandably. But between them, they put on nearly 100 runs, didn't they? Sorry,
Yeah, it was 50 in the end. Oh
only
no,
50. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
50.
So
But then Smith obviously carried on after that and
yes,
batted very nicely with Cam Green.
yeah,
But yeah, as a pair, they're still the biggest problem because we know that they aren't concerned with scoring rates. I know they did score very quickly today, but they're more than happy to treat Test cricket how most countries treat Test cricket, which is a 5 day game. And actually, especially with a day-night test where there are periods where it's easier and periods where it's a lot harder. You look at a pairing that have the ability to grind out bowlers and really make them uh, to throw them off. And it's still, yeah, it was a problematic pairing for the England bowlers, and they couldn't
yes.
really manage it until they got an eventual breakthrough. But by then, the lead was getting rapidly smaller. And with the way they were scoring, it was already becoming a bit of an issue.
Well, it's interesting in terms of the handling of the England bowlers. Uh, when England came back after lunch, they knew obviously that they hadn't bowled particularly well in the opening session, and I think it's fair to say that they were more focused straight after that lunch. But by lunch, I mean the first break. Uh,
Yep.
and But what did surprise me is that whereas yesterday, uh, Steve Smith withheld Mitchell Stark after the break to keep him for when the twilight
Mm.
started cutting in. Stokes bowled Archer, I think for 7 overs straight, was it? After
Yeah,
lunch.
he had a decent spell. Yeah,
So that by the time twilight was come, he was spent and wasn't there to take advantage of the conditions. And I mean, understandably, his pace was dropping off a bit towards the end, and the batsmen were in a better position to take some advantage of him at that stage. It should also be said that not just Smith and Labuschagne, but the Australian batsmen had a lot of luck on that side today. There were a lot of hooks that went over the wicketkeepers' heads,
true.
4 or 6, and that sort of thing. So they certainly had the run of the green, I think, in that regard. But England helped them, can I say?
Yeah,
With
you can. Yeah.
So
Oh,
let's go to that now. You talked
yeah.
earlier about Manus Labuschagne's catch, and we'll come to Stephen Smith's dismissal too. Maybe
Mm.
talk about Stephen Smith's dismissal because that was something special.
So yeah, so it came in a crazy period where Green had just got out. Cast had set up a good plan. He'd aim at the stumps finally, and got Green. Carey came in and he was dropped first ball, which we'll probably get back to. But then that put Steve Smith back on strike, who was on 60, 61. And he goes for a hook shot that is aerial, but it goes pretty quickly. And then out of nowhere, Will Jacks makes a flying one-handed diving catch. It was brilliant. It was better than Maurice Labuschagne's catch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was shocked he held on, especially through the contact with the ground at the end as well.
Yeah.
We thought he might have grounded it by mistake, but
Yeah.
he held on. And it needed something that good to get rid of Smith, who was looking in very good touch, I thought.
Absolutely. The only person I would expect to take that catch would be Chris Jordan, I think.
Yeah,
'Cause he makes a habit of that sort of thing.
yeah,
But it was an absolutely superb catch. But that made it contrast with the other catches. How many catches was it?
yeah.
5 catches England dropped today?
Five dropped, and three of them were very, uh,
Straightforward.
three were very straightforward, and three, I think it was a different three, but those there were three which got severely punished. So Carey dropped on naught and on 25. Nisa dropped on, was it 4? And then Head was dropped on
3, I
3 or 4.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, 3.
Yeah.
But the other drops less costly, but still just a nightmare for England. I thought
And
so. Duckett had 2 of those drops. One that kind of looped up, and he got in position, and it just spilled out on impact with the ground. And one where he just failed to get 2 hands to the ball, where he kind of gradually went with his right rather than quickly going with both. I would have been the better option. Uh, there was the most frustrating one I thought was the one near the end. It was off Atkinson. I think it was Carey's second, the second drop of Carey,
yes.
where the ball bisected Smith and Roots. And kind of the initial talk was, oh, Root could have maybe done better because it's hit him in the hand. But on replay, Smith had to go for that, and he definitely would have gone for it if he hadn't dropped Head earlier in the day, because it was a decent height for him. It was quick, but it wasn't out of his reach by any means. And the discourse soon became, "Oh, what's happened to Ben Folkes? Where's he been recently?" Because he
Yes.
would have held on. He would have held on to that 10 times
Yeah.
out of 10.
Yeah, I mean that's very costly for England, and not
Yeah,
just in terms of runs scored, but psychologically that's
definitely.
very damaging.
Yeah, we
Um,
England in recent years have been great at not dropping their heads, but today was an especially frustrating one. Stokes was head down quite a lot. Archer very frustrated with the drops. And then Atkinson as well had one dropped off his bowling and just looked very dejected. He's always a bit stroppy, but especially so after his drop. And you don't normally see England like that, especially when it's not like the game state is completely out of control here, but just the way things went today, having to make 10 chances to take 6 wickets was a brutal day in very hot conditions.
Yeah, well, you say very hot. It was quite
Was it?
humid, but it wasn't particularly hot for Brisbane. It started off
Oh, I
at
saw.
about 26 and went down to
Oh,
22
okay.
by the end.
I thought it was 29. Sorry,
Yeah,
got a
it,
wrong
it
reading.
it was on the way down by the time we started.
Right.
That's the thing
Okay.
about a day-night test. So it wasn't brutal in any way. It's going to be warmer tomorrow, and the days 4 and 5, we're going to probably see some rain, maybe some thunder
Yeah.
on Sunday, which will make it interesting because that does change the conditions of the game. But if you look at the overs, Archibald 20, Atkinson 18, Carson Stokes 17 each. And to be honest, by the end of the day, they all looked absolutely spent.
Yeah. Yeah, it was tough. Stokes seemed to pull up with some kind of cramp. He took his electrolytes and
Yeah.
nearly threw up, which they showed on camera for some
Yes.
reason. But Archer was struggling by the end of his spell, very slow, um, and Cast had to go off after his drop catch. Seemed to hurt his hand, and Atkinson had an ankle problem as well. So all four were, yeah, struggling big time.
And they've got the prospect of a tough first session tomorrow because the batting
Yes,
conditions this morning were very benign.
yeah,
There was no swing there for the bowlers to speak of. So, and I recall in Perth that all of the bowlers in the second innings found it really hard to get back up to the pace they had in the first innings. So
yeah,
they're really going to have to work very hard in the morning if they're going to
yeah,
make a breakthrough and keep England in this game.
yeah.
By the same token, I think it's fair to say that chase in the fourth innings will be tough. So if
It's true.
England can
Yeah.
set any sort of reasonable target, it will make it very interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
What do you think that target is as a day two estimate?
I believe that if they can set, say, 170 plus, they're in the game.
Okay.
But it's quite possible that Australia could bat till an hour after lunch tomorrow
That's
and
yeah,
score another 200 runs, and that would put England in a really difficult situation.
yeah,
So who
yeah.
knows? They may fall over in a heap in half an hour in the
Definitely.
morning.
Yeah.
That's the
They've
beauty of cricket, isn't it?
it's why I think it's why Australia are so good at day night tests is because they've shown this time again that they've nailed the timings. Because if they can bat until the sun starts to set tomorrow, and you
Yeah,
put England in with a difficult 3 hours,
yeah,
um, they could be four down very cheaply and have
yeah,
to scramble to a meaningful total on day four, and
yeah,
then have plenty of time to see it off.
yeah.
Uh, and even with Carey and with Nisa, who are both very competent, um, it looks like that's going to be a
Yes, well,
hard
Kerry
partnership
and
to
Nisa
dislodge.
between them have put on what 51 already
Yeah,
in not very long, in 10 overs or so,
yeah,
9 overs. And it hasn't looked too hard for them, to be honest, apart from the drop
no,
catches.
yeah, they were edging a few, and they did give chances, but yeah, they had plenty of room to drive. And when the speeds were down, they were just taking advantage of everything of a decent length.
Yeah. The two batsmen I haven't mentioned are Cameron Green, who I thought looked pretty good for his 45
Yeah,
until uh, the over where he got out. Maybe you could
yeah,
talk about that. It was quite funny in a way.
it was interesting because he got lured into something that it seems like he wouldn't fall for because Cast didn't really have any other option when he was bowling. It seemed like he wasn't getting a good enough. He wasn't getting anywhere near enough movement to cause trouble with traditional fast bowling. So he had to opt for the short method. And then when he did it 5 times in a row, uh, Cameron Green, we saw like the setup graphic, and it was Cameron Green gradually stepping further and further back, and then somehow Cast clocked onto it before before
Well,
Green did.
I
And
noticed Ben Stokes had a word to cast before he
yes,
bowled
that's
that
true.
ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at that point, surely Green's got to think, well, what's Ben Stokes talking about here? It's not, it's got to be, oh, I think I'm moving away too much. And then, yeah, Cast just directs one low at the stumps and does the job. And that did open up England to have a mini comeback before the drops kind of ruined that.
Yes, well, I mean, getting two wickets in two runs
Mm.
was the only time there wasn't a partnership of some size in the
Yes.
Australian innings. And that's the key, it seems to me, that
Yeah.
nobody stands out particularly when you go through scores 33, 72,
Yeah.
65, 61, 46, 46, 23, and 15 not out. Uh, Everybody's put in. I look at the England innings, I see four ducks, 138 for Root,
Yeah.
76 for Zach Crawley, and 38 for Jofra Archer. But it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
it's
that
smart. It's smart partnership batting, and it's
yeah
a big difference between the two sides in general. Just recognizing game scenario and and kind of knowing what they can pick off.
yeah
They're so much better at than England at the minute.
yeah. Although it has to be said that some of the shots that Australians got out to today were just as bad as some of the shots that the English got out to. Marnus Labuschagne was caught behind playing a crossback shot to a ball way too close to his body.
Yeah,
Um, but at least by then he made 65.
yeah, yeah. He's done enough at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, what was your gut feel by the end of the day? How did you feel about it from an Englishman's point of view?
It was a huge missed opportunity, I thought, because with the way we'd got Green and Smith, and then the number of chances we made, they could have been all out by the end of today, with a lead of maybe 20. And
Yep.
from that, you'd have said, well, England are right in this because they'll have the great batting tomorrow for a good chunk of it and
Yep.
then see where they're at. And so it's completely flipped, partly because of the way day night tests go, but also just because of mental errors and being just way too sloppy to win a test match. It's just not something you can get away with in Australia
Yep.
or anywhere away from home, really. Um, and yeah, it's something that hasn't, I wouldn't say drop catches have haunted England that much. There was one test against India where it was a problem. But for the most part, it's something they pride themselves on, being very solid in the field. And Stokes is very keen on that as something he's always shouting about. And he always wants maximum effort and always, uh, emphasizes that kind of that aspect of the game. But today it was a real letdown uh,
Yeah.
in that regard.
Yeah, indeed. Now, I think I know what the answer to this question is going to be, but the highlight of the day's play for you.
It was the Jacks catch.
Yeah.
It was a great moment, and that whole over was a complete roller coaster because there was a
Yeah.
drop in between there as well, two wickets and a drop, and to get the two set batsmen out and to drop Carey felt like the perfect run of things, and then it turned out that was equally problematic in its own way. Uh,
Yes.
so it was a lot going on in a very short period of time, and from a bowler that had been getting absolutely smashed everywhere, to come out with that two wicket over, it was a great moment in the studio.
Yes. Speaking of Will Jacks, he bowled one over today for 9
Yeah,
runs. Was that a mistake?
it's a hard one. I would say no. Well, yes, in the sense that it could have been good to rest the likes of Archer more. So as a rotation piece, yes. I don't think he'd have got that much on the surface, and I think he would have been targeted somewhat. Uh,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it could have been a useful alleviation of um, resources for the other guys who were struggling big time by the end.
Yeah. Well, I think it's fair to say that the relentlessness of the Australian batting was fairly intimidating and would have been a
Yes,
hard time to bring a part-time spinner in.
yeah.
Um, the the other question, which I asked you the other night, your gorilla of the day. What was there in the studio that particularly drew its attention to you?
I would say it's Bear's reactions to the drops, which got progressively more unhinged as the day was going on. Started off quite composed with a gutting. Can't be doing that. And descended into a lot worse. It's definitely worth going back. I'm sure someone will timestamp it in the comment section of that YouTube stream.
Well,
If someone doesn't, then I will.
Yeah, the last hour or so, it wasn't on air, and I was watching it live on TV, but my TV feed is ahead of Guerilla, of course.
Yes.
So if I saw a catch dropped, I would immediately turn up Guerilla. So I'd hear Bear at full volume and say, "Are you fucking kidding me?" It's most amusing, and it's
brilliant.
everything we expect of the Bear. So yeah, but you had a lot of fun in the studio today. I have
It was
no
great.
doubt.
It was a good day. Yeah, we had the Patreon Q&A in the first interval.
Oh,
That was a lot of
yes,
fun.
that was good. I'm glad, though, you didn't get on to the morality talk because
Yeah,
I
save
have
that for
my
another
doubts
time.
about Gorilla's position to lay down the moral codes.
Yeah, it's not really our forte.
Okay, so what do you see happening tomorrow?
Oh, in all honesty, I see Australia batting for far too long. I reckon they might bat the whole of the first session, and they might score. I think they might be more composed. I don't think they'll come out all guns blazing. So then I can see them maybe putting on 80 or 90 in the first session, and then when the wickets fall eventually, I think England are going to need someone to step up. You hope is it someone like Duckett or Pope who want to make amends, but they'll need some serious partnerships going on if they're to not be at the end of tomorrow with. If they want any hope at the end of tomorrow, they're going to have to be at most 2 or 3 wickets down by the end of the day's play. And how many runs that's for, I have no idea, because they could go at it far too aggressively. Or they might have to dig in because the bowling's too good. But we'll see. I'm not optimistic, unfortunately.
Well, you are English. You have experience.
Yes.
The other thing we didn't talk about is the over rate. So yesterday, Australia bowled a total in 6.5 hours cricket of 74 overs when they're supposed to bowl 90 in a day. And because of the quirks of the regulations, because England's innings ended up being less than 80 overs, they will not be penalised for that. Today wasn't a lot better. We saw a total today of 75.2 overs plus a 10-minute break. So say the equivalent of 77, 78 overs. Again, really short. But if Australia managed to stretch their innings to 80 overs, England will be seriously penalised if they don't pick up on their over rate. That's just ridiculous in my view. I think it's totally unfair. And if the Bear whinges about that this time, I'll be on his side because I just don't think that makes any sense at all. Somebody somewhere has got to do something about that, but that's a discussion for another time, and I'm not going to have it with Gary because Gary,
no, definitely not.
It gets really boring. Anyhow, we shall no doubt see much of the same tomorrow.
I don't want to point fingers for the over rate, but it might be to do with the Australians with their pints who got in Steve Smith's way quite a lot. He was getting very frustrated at them. There were a couple of them moving. It didn't even seem like they were that close to the sight screen. But if we want someone individually to blame for slow over rates,
I'm sure
I think it was those two in the crowd.
I'm sure you'll find Australians to blame for England's failings. It's what we need to do. Well, thank you very much, Ed. I've really enjoyed our discussion. We'll be back tomorrow night with whatever happens tomorrow. But the one thing you can say is there has been a hell of a lot of action, and it's been a lot of fun to be part of it on Guerilla and with all our patrons who support us through this. We're very grateful to you. If you don't yet support us, please go to patreon.com/Guerilla Cricket and become a patron, because we do need your support just to cover the basic costs. Nobody's getting paid, but there is a good deal of expenditure incurred in what we do, and we think we hope you think it's worth it. Anyhow, thank you very much, Ed. We'll catch you later.
Yes, thank you very much.
There's the bear in there, and Hendo as well. There are jingles they play, and swear words to yell.